Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a new AI skill that you and I use all the time without even realizing it. Just the ability to pause and think. It sounds so simple, right? But this one idea could fundamentally change how AI writes code, solves problems, and even how it reasons.
Okay, so this question really gets to the heart of the matter. Because the way most AIs think today, well, it has this hidden and honestly pretty inhuman flaw. See, they're amazing at making a plan, but they are absolutely terrible at adapting that plan once they've started.
To really get what I mean, we need to understand the problem with the current way of doing things. Researchers have a name for it: upfront thinking. And while it's powerful, it's also incredibly rigid.
Think about it. When a human programmer writes code, it's this back and forth process, right? You plan a little, you code a little, you hit a wall, you stop, think, and then you revise. But most AIs, they do it completely differently. They create this one single exhaustive plan at the very beginning, and then they just execute it blindly. The big problem here is that the really tricky parts of a task often only show up while you're doing the work.
And this right here is a perfect example of that failure from the research. The AI makes its super detailed plan, but it misses one tiny subtle detail about how programming languages handle numbering. And since it can't just pause and reconsider, it just plows ahead and writes buggy code. The result is an index out-of-bounds error, a simple mistake that a human would probably catch by just stopping for a second to think.
So, to fix this, a team of researchers from Peking University and Alibaba Group came up with a new way of doing things, a mechanism that's way more intuitive and a whole lot more like how we actually think and solve problems. And here it is in action. They call it Think Anywhere, and it's brilliant. Instead of being locked into that upfront plan, the AI can now pop in these little think blocks right in the middle of writing a line of code. You can see it here. It pauses, realizes its mistake about the indexing, and then corrects the code on the fly. It's thinking while it's doing, just like a real person.
So how on earth did they do it? Let's get into how they actually taught an AI this new skill. Because you can't just tell a model to think more. It involves this really clever two-part training process.
Okay, so first, in a step they call the cold start, they basically just show the AI thousands of examples of code where this midstream thinking is done correctly. This teaches the model the basic pattern, what it's supposed to look like. Then, in step 2, they use reinforcement learning, which is basically a reward system, to let the model explore and figure out for itself the absolute best moments to pause and think.
And just a quick refresher on that, reinforcement learning is all about trial and error. The model tries to solve a problem. If the final code works, hey, it gets a reward. If it fails, no reward. Over time, it starts to learn that pausing to think at these really critical moments leads to more rewards, and so it does it more often. It learns from its own experience.
All right, but the million-dollar question is, does this new method actually work any better? Well, the researchers put it through its paces on a whole bunch of industry-standard tests, and the results, yeah, they're pretty impressive.
The difference is really significant. On average, across 4 major coding tests, the Think Anywhere model scored over 70%. That's a jump of more than 9 points from the original model. In the world of AI, that is a huge leap in performance.
And what's really crucial here is that this isn't just for those giant, power-hungry models. It turns out it's especially effective for smaller ones. On a 1.5 billion parameter model, Think Anywhere gave it a nearly 14% performance boost. This means we can make smaller, more efficient AIs much, much more capable.
And here's where it gets wild. This skill isn't just for code. The researchers took the exact same model trained only on coding tasks and tested it on a set of really complex math competition problems. The original model, it could only solve about 5% of them. The Think Anywhere model, it solved over 17%. That suggests the AI didn't just learn a neat coding trick. It learned a more general, transferable way of reasoning.
And that brings us to the bigger picture: why this research actually matters for the future of AI, way beyond just writing better software. So let's just recap the key benefits here. This whole approach makes AI more powerful, right? It's hitting top-tier results. It's also more efficient because it uses its brain power on demand instead of making these giant upfront plans. As we just saw, it's more general. The skills it learns in one area, like coding, can transfer to new areas like math. And finally, it's more interpretable. We can literally see where and why an AI decides it needs to stop and think.
As the researchers put it so perfectly in their paper, this method enables adaptive computation. The AI isn't just mindlessly chugging along anymore. It's learning to dynamically send its thinking power exactly where and when it's needed the most. That is just a far more intelligent and efficient way to behave.
A breakthrough like this opens up some truly incredible possibilities. It's a big step away from AI just being a brute force calculator, and a step toward AI becoming a flexible, adaptive reasoner. Which, leaves us with one final thought to ponder. If an AI can really learn to think on demand, what's the one problem you would ask it to solve?